Maya is serving the plot a little more, and we see that she has people in her life that don't remember to bump the mouse to keep the on-screen graphic active. Hello there, heroes! I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. I find myself once again apologizing for a delay between videos. I know I already established that I'd be moving back and forth between Orange Ranger Plays and Orange Ranger Videos. The thing is that Mario Sunshine got really close to its conclusion, and I decided to take a little bit of extra time and just see that all the way through.
Ladies and gentlemen, and others, Super Mario Sunshine.
But now I'm back over here, and I'm going to be doing 4 Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode reviews before starting my next project on Orange Ranger Plays. Last time, things started to get a little bit hectic, as Xaviax added not 1, but 2 new riders to the mix, kicking things off with Kamen Rider Camo, and ending the episode with Kamen Rider Thrust. Camo got the title card last time, so let's take a look at the 9th episode of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, Kamen Rider Thrust.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
Long recap of the past few episodes, blah blah blah, but seriously, over 2 minutes this time. Len tells Maya that it's time for her to go now. She asks how she can leave, and he shoves her at a car window, which she just bounces right off of. He winces, apologizes, and puts a hand on her shoulder, gently pushing her through back to Earth. Yes, apparently if you're not a rider or a monster, you can't pass through from Earth to Ventara and vice versa without a rider or a monster taking you through. Len turns back to Thrust, who has his foot on Len's deck.
We're just done with phrasing, right? That's not a thing anymore?
I know I said I wouldn't make that joke, but I just couldn't avoid it that time. However, Thrust kicks the deck back over to Len, saying it's no fun winning the fight if the fight's not fair. 2 notes. Number 1, Kamen Rider Camo would not agree, and number 2, keep that thought coming from Thrust in mind. The 2 clash as the theme song kicks in. Afterwards, Thrust gets a few hits in, but Len is clearly more acrobatic. Sorry, couldn't resist that one either. Thrust wonders aloud why he got Len in the first round, confusing him. Meanwhile, Maya is watching this fight on Earth in a car window, the one she came out of, like it's a TV that she's sitting too close to. Meanwhile, Trent is worrying about Maya, and I'm really glad that the actress that played Grace has fallen from, well, Grace, as Grace just does not care, whining about heavy books and making Trent help her instead of going to look for Maya. Back over on Ventara, we see that Strike is now observing the fight in person with a very dapper purple snake cane. Thrust has gotten the upper hand, telling Len that he's going to win the Battle Club tournament and get his life back, with Len insisting that this is not a tournament, it's a war, and there are no winners. Thrust uses his Strike Vent card, with his card slot just kind of slapped onto his left shoulder, the card giving him a big rhino hand fist. Len keeps insisting that the man who gave the deck to Thrust lied to him, but we hear Thrust desperately saying that what the man told him has to be true. At this point, it's really just barely enough to keep this concept of these riders never even considering the fact that they were lied to from getting tired. Now that Maya is back on, her home planet and everything, a call from Trent finally goes through. Funny little thing, she's got one of the phones of the time, a little Motorola small single brick looking kind of a thing. But it not only shows the name of the caller, but a little video clip of Trent asking her to pick up the phone. I know for a fact that phones of the time were not doing that. Maya ignores the call because she's kind of an idiot, or at the very least, very, very inconsiderate. Then we see Trent still worried about Maya, and hey, now Grace is saying that Maya being out of touch this long isn't like her, and this isn't good. Kind of like exactly what Trent was telling your vapid backside when you made him help you with heavy books.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Thrust has a line that kind of further clarifies what I was talking about this being slightly different in terms of not believing what Len is telling them. Len says, last chance, you're making a mistake. Thrust says, maybe, but I can't take that chance. This is true desperation. Seeing that Len is now more on the losing side of the fight, Maya decides that she has to take a chance and call Kit, hoping that he'll listen to her. Okay, I've been avoiding using screen caps for this show because of my bad history with doing that with Power Rangers, though I doubt there's anyone who cares enough about the copyright of this show to claim videos about it in this day and age. But I'm going to go ahead and take a chance here regardless, because I've been harping on this for a while, and I want to visually demonstrate it to you, even if you're not watching the episodes. We cut to Kit's apartment building. This place. Look at this place. Huge covered stairwells, upper catwalks, fenced-in areas, big plate glass windows, huge, thick concrete walls. This is not an apartment complex. I've speculated in the past that this is the back of a sports arena, but from this angle, it kind of looks like a prison.
Get on with it!
Fair enough, my now superiorly bearded cutaway. Drew reads Kit the riot act about letting Wing Knight escape, even ordering him to ignore Maya's phone call. Kit is confused about why Camo was attacking Wing Knight when Drew had said that all of the Earth Riders were after him, but Drew makes an excuse about this being a solo rogue agent that wants Zaviax's power for himself. They start to leave to go look for Wing Knight, but then Maya's voicemail starts playing before they get out the door. Maya telling Kit that Drew is really the bad guy and to please come help Len at the junkyard. Kit pretends not to believe it, and this is really a credit to Stephen Ford's acting, but the sense I got from Kit in this scene is that this just fit right in with all of his other suspicions, and now he really thinks more than not that Drew is the bad guy, but for the moment he's not sure, so he needs to keep that on the down low. More motorbike porn as the two head to the junkyard, and we see that Camo is actually already in Ventara, untransformed. He's mad at another rider cutting in on his fight, but then hears Drew and Kit enter Ventara and hides. Kit is happy to see another rider fighting Wing Knight, thinking he must be one of the good guys, to which Drew, agrees. They go to help, but Camo steps in the way, telling them to back off. Kit tells him that he does not want to work for Zaviax, but Camo, who again doesn't have a human name yet, and I'm going to get to that later actually, doesn't know who that is, explaining about Grace, maybe Race, Kamen Rider Wiki has Race, Maddox, and Combat Logistics. Kit says this guy sounds just as confused as Incisor did, and starts to put the pieces together just as Camo and Drew draw their decks. Let the battle of the Green Riders begin! Torque and Camo start fighting as Kit complains that neither of them are listening to him. Camo is too fast for Torque on his own, constantly evading his attacks and slipping in and out and away. Kit looks at his own deck as they run off, but then puts it away and runs after them. After a weird single-second shot of Strike looking confused, which I'll actually touch on later, Thrust has Len on the ropes, clearly beaten down and winded. But then Camo and Torque stumble into the area where they're fighting, making Thrust wonder just how many riders he has to beat this round. Torque tracks Camo, but can't get a fix on him, and Camo tells himself to stay focused. Probably because he's been mildly injured.
That was a great scene.
We see Trent working in the bookstore, but he's clearly still concerned about Maya. He calls Lacey, and while she starts off with her vapid mall rat shtick, he pushes past that and gets her to admit that she is also concerned. But meanwhile, oh heroes, finally, we get to see the biggest himbo in toku figure it out! Camo stumbles into Kit, who insists that he only wants to talk, not fight. Camo keeps going on and on about being the strongest on two worlds and wanting to take out the toughest fighter, Wing Knight. Torque jumps in, accusing Kit of fraternizing with the enemy. Kit starts to explain how all of the other riders have been deceived by Xaviax. Incisor needed money. Xaviax promised him $1 million for every rider he defeated. Camo wanted to be the very best, toughest fighter. Xaviax promised him that he could be the toughest man on two worlds if he beat the toughest fighter, Wing Knight. Xaviax is deceiving all of the Earth Riders into attacking Wing Knight, because everyone that is attacking Wing Knight is working for Xaviax.
I get it.
Yes, my friends, Kit has finally realized that Drew is working for Xaviax. Torque congratulates Kit, saying that his prize for this realization is a one-way ticket to the Advent Void, pointing that really weird giant bazooka type thing at him. Camo says if they're bringing guns to a fist fight, he's out, starting to walk away. And just to demonstrate to the audience how big of a sleazeball Drew actually is, Torque shoots Camo directly in the back.
You'd shoot a man in the back.
Well, it's the safest way, isn't it?
Camo takes a few steps away and collapses. Torque pulls out his attack ride card, which, by the way, the giant green bull creature is called Magnu Giga. He tells Kit that he's next. Kit starts to transform into Dragon Knight, but that whole process is going to take a minute. Magnu Giga rises up from the pavement, and Camo says that's cheating. Ironic words coming from him, obviously. Drew says no, this is cheating, firing off his final vent. I'm not sure why that is cheating, but Camo takes the full brunt of the attack. He turns to dust in the wind as even Len seems to sense this, becoming the second rider to be vented. Thrust is taken aback by this, saying he was never told that being disintegrated was the cost of losing. He's out. Kit says he never should have listened to Drew, and Drew shoots him point blank in the chest, saying he'll never have to ever again. Len stumbles over, even dropping to one knee, and we get to see there's actually purple eyes behind the grating on his visor. He says it's his turn now, taking out a card. Torque mocks Kit with the whole "doesn't it hurt when someone you trust betrays you" line, but then he's hit by Wing Knight's final vent. Somehow, maybe because he wasn't previously weakened like Camo was, he survives this, retreating back to Earth. I think the producers got a little confused at this point, thinking that Maya was kind of watching a view of the show on that window instead of just a view of Ventara, because she sees Drew emerge. Again, she doesn't turn, she's looking in the window, realizes he's near her, and runs to hide. Kit helps Len up, leading him off. Xaviax approaches Strike, who apologizes for that not going so well, but Xaviax takes it in stride, saying at least it's good to know who the weak links in the chain are. Back on Earth, Kit apologizes to Len for not trusting him, but Len just says, better late than never. Maya finds the two and offers to take Len to a hospital, draw too much attention, or home. But Len is not from Earth. He doesn't have a home on Earth. Kit says that Len can crash with him. We see Xaviax observe this through the mirrored window, saying Wing Knight has become soft, and that will be his doom. And these will be the cards for this episode. Episode 9, Kamen Rider Thrust. Pros, a lot of really good action, Kit finally putting it together, and nice emotional notes. Cons, Camo died without getting a name. Thrust wasn't the star of his own episode, and a bit of shifting attention. All in all, a really strong episode. Kamen Rider Thrust gets 4.5 cards out of 5. One of the upsides to there being more riders in an episode is that we get more fights between them, and they're genuinely fun fights. And it's not all just punch, slash. A focus of the episode was the importance of agility. Both Camo and Wing Knight did well in their fights by avoiding attacks, being shifty and hard to hit. You know the main sign that it was really time for Kit to figure things out about Drew? That when he does, even Drew, working for Xaviax, the plan is going better and better the longer Kit is fooled, is happy when Kit finally figures it out and he can drop the act. It really would have strained credibility for Kit to be such a fool about this for even one more episode. And that moment when he puts it together is just fantastic. You know, even the background non-rider characters in this show are starting to come into their own. Maya's concern and excitement about the riders, Trent's concern for Maya, which bleeds over into Grace and Lacey. Heck, even getting back to the riders themselves, Kit had a great episode as far as emotions, being excited about finding more riders and having a team, more allies, the sense of betrayal when he learned the truth about Drew, his apology to Len. All of that just made this an episode with really strong emotional notes. The name of the man that Xaviax gave the Camo deck to on Earth was Grant Staley. And I only know that by looking it up on Kamen Rider Wiki. Unless I missed a mention somewhere, Grant is never named on screen in either of these episodes. Overall, this rider and character just feel like a complete waste. One thing the Kamen Rider Wiki taught me is that his Japanese counterpart, Kamen Rider Verd, had a copy vent where, being based on a chameleon, he could duplicate the look of other riders. That would have been really cool to see. I found it weird for this episode to be named Kamen Rider Thrust. It broke the streak of alternating episode names and rider-named episodes, and besides, the preview for the next episode demonstrates that's the one where we're going to learn about Thrust, so why call this episode Kamen Rider Thrust? This episode was more about Kit, Len, and Drew, with the other riders just as background pieces. Remember that single-second shot of Strike, level iteration, that I mentioned? I thought about it, and it's possible that he looked confused because his focus was going from one side of the screen to the other between the two fights, and that's kind of a theme of this episode, actually. Like I mentioned, there's a good number of characters in this episode, and that means our attention jumps around a good little bit. I barely consider this a con. I think they handled it pretty well overall. If they'd ratcheted back on the switching around between storylines just a little, I think they would have nailed it. But episodes like this are why I was so excited to get back to reviewing this show. So many characters, all with their own agendas, but looming over it all the will of Xaviax, with some people just working for him outright. Our hero isn't perfect. He was a fool for a long time, but has learned from that mistake and will grow as a result. Wing Knight has softened, and that is not a bad thing, as he is forgiving of Kit. Maya is serving the plot a little bit more, and we see that she has people in her life who do care about her. Let's see if they can keep all this up in the 10th episode of Dragon Knight, Battle Club. Thrust attacks Dragon Knight thinking he is part of the tournament. Meanwhile, JTC leaks pictures of another Kamen Rider to Maya and asks her to investigate. That is going to wrap up another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can head down to the comments and let me know what you thought of this episode as well as my review of it. And while you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button and let me know that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, heroes, may the power of the cards protect you. But then Thrust and Camo stumble into the area where they're fighting, making Thrust wonder just how many riders he has to beat. I think I said Thrust and Camo. Making Thrust wonder just how many riders he has to beat this round. Thrust tracks Camo. Ding, yeah, I didn't mute this because I'm a dumb. Thrust, he puts his... Down in the comments below, you can let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my review of it. And while you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button.